Hi everybody, I'm Samim. It's a pleasure to be here. I come to this talk with, I have a powerful question to which you don't have an answer for. Especially this question, automating creativity, why, has been one that has been pestering me for quite some time. And I'll dissect these three things for you in the talk, automating creativity and why, and I hope we get to some common ground. So we'll start with a question I get asked all the time: can machines be creative? And I find the question is extremely unproductive, almost annoying at times. Nevertheless, let's do an experiment in the room. Raise your hand if you think A was painted by an AI. And raise your hand if you think it's B that was made by an AI. Fantastic. So I'm sorry to inform you that both paintings were actually made by a monkey. And don't despair, because scientists have shown in studies that 1 in 3 art students can't tell famous paintings from monkeys. So you're not alone. And it's the same with AI, actually. And why I put this here is that the whole story around creativity is incredibly complicated. The science is in its absolute infancy. When somebody comes out and says, we know what is creativity, here's the definition, we're going to emulate it in a machine, he's full of BS. I tweeted this one out yesterday, and Adam had a great comment. Imagine having the confidence of these scientists to make such bold claims about the subjective nature of interpretation without bothering to understand anything about it. So that's the state of creativity. Me personally, I think you have an eternal soul. You are the ghost in a machine. You are creative if you like it or not. But that's philosophy, right? So let's move on to the context, automating creativity, why? And in this context, this is still the most useful idea that I've encountered from John Cleese of Monty Python. Creativity is not a talent, it's a way of operating. In that case, when we talk about operating, we're really just one step away from automating. And automating has been one of the defining trends of our time. The last 100 years, but particularly the last 20 years, we're in this enormous push across all continents and across all industries to automate everything. And this trend does not stop of creative industries. We're living in an age where machines are recommending creative artifacts by the billions every day, and you're immersed by an algorithmic cloud of creativity. When a YouTube algorithm recommends you the next video, that's a creative act. When Spotify decides what playlist you're going to listen to, that's a creative act. Being surrounded by artificial creativity is already actually our modus operandi. But, of course, now we're entering an age where machines are starting to generate creative artifacts. And here's some examples of that, just to illustrate the point. One bucket of research that's going on, I call it automating humans. So this is an experiment that came out a month ago, Bit by NVIDIA, where you give it an edge and it generates you a fully formed, hyper-realistic human being. This is the future of acting right here. In a couple of years, you won't have actors in the traditional sense, because you can generate them. They look the same, they behave the same, at a fraction of the cost of an actor. In the same topics, like look at other results, where it's a similar concept, but now we're generating dance. We give it a source video that does some complicated dance. We take a bit of sampling from our body, and then we ask it, just make me dance like a professional. So that's the future of dance. This trend, you see it really across all creative industries. And in design or in engineering, we've actually made a jump from not just using generative techniques, but depending on it. You don't design such complex mechanical things anymore without the generative algorithm, because you don't get the affordances you get with the statistical analysis, etc. Now, the really important point is to realize the quality of all these things across all creative industries is rapidly getting good enough. It's not human level, not even close, but it's good enough to be in production systems, and that really matters. Here's some automated communication. These are text-generating networks from Facebook's Fair. So it's becoming very coherent, and it's not going to beat a human writer, but it's good enough to maybe write marketing copy. And think about how many marketing copy people there are in the world. And finally, just to touch some more, automated services. This is, you give it a picture, it spits out the 3D model of your hair. This is the future of hairdressing, right? Or, of course, automated entertainment. The games industry made a jump from not just using generative techniques, but depending on it. So what we're seeing is the arrival of robust automation capabilities across all creative industries. In some industries, it's still nascent, but it is coming across all creative industries, make no mistake about that. Now, I'm going to make some predictions about the creative economy in 2030, which is about 10 years from now. Firstly, I think creative tools will be far less like Photoshop and much more like deep fakes as a service. Further, I'm going to predict that 90% of all content in 10 years from now will be machine-generated and extremely cheap to buy. 90% of it, everything, from your painting to your music to your text. That leaves 10% for humans, and that's going to be an artisanal kind of art form, where sure, we'll do this, but we'll focus mainly on culture making, on storytelling, on things like that, which can't be automated per se. And lastly, I don't think you need any AI breakthroughs. You can do it with just traditional computation at mass scale. We're there already. And so I have these discussions quite a bit with people working in the industry, and I constantly hear doom and gloom what you're saying here, because AI will augment and empower humans. And sure, AI will empower some creators, and it will enable some new art forms. But if you want to understand what will happen with this tech at industrial scale, look at fake news, spam bots, or trading botnets. That's the reality we're heading into. These are the dynamics that are coming. And I think very importantly here is to be honest, especially as a developer of such systems, and say it will be a very difficult time and there will be blood. We have to be honest about this. Jobs will be destroyed en masse in creative industries in the next 10, 15 years. I think that, of course, we can replace old jobs with new jobs, but this won't happen magically. To create new jobs in this automation age, we need to invest heavily in education and in culture, which frankly, under the current klepto-capitalist system we live in, whatever you want to call it, I find it hard to believe that we're doubling down on culture and so forth. I think we're doubling down on naked automation right now. And that's quite concerning. And you end up with automation, which is fake automation. This is a picture down there, a self-driving car actually controlled by a man dressed up as a car seat. That's the logic. Maybe there's still human creators somewhere doing something, but it will be marketed as, oh, this is AI generated. So why automating creativity? Why? I think just asking the why itself is extremely important. It's something you don't actually encounter that much in the tech industry, at least. And I think number one, what we should be asking is why are we creative? And it's clearly not just to produce products, because the creative process in itself is the product, but it's as well the process, so the act of painting in this example. But I would actually further stipulate that it's also presence. It's being a painter that really matters. Learning from others, being in a community, and so forth. That might actually be a very integral part that can't be automated as long as you recognize it and value it. So framing in this context is extremely important, and I think automating creativity is one of those big questions we need to frame very carefully. And I'll end with giving you my current framing that I use to guide my work. Computational creativity, tools to ease the transition from mass consumption to mass creation. And this is trying to inch towards a why that is functional for me. Because right now, in times of climate change, we're still sitting in an absolute mass consumption society where we define our value as humans essentially by how much we consume. And going into a world where machines can produce trillions of artifacts, where the value of an artifact will be completely diluted to zero, it will be different what we value and how we interact with those things. So I'd like to end here and invite you to think about automating creativity. Why? Thank you.